Welcome to July's Coastal Gardener. You know, this is the hot time of year and lots of topics to talk about in the garden. One of those we're going to have today, of course, is Matt Martin, our Extension Associate in the Crop Science Department at NC State, talking about warm season grasses. A little later on, we'll show you some great plants with beautiful pictures, and we'll join Chantel in the kitchen. But Matt, welcome to the show. Appreciate you joining us. Hadn't had you on for a while. This is the hot time of year. These warm season grasses like it hot. We're here in what we're calling the new picnic area at the Arboretum. And we have a bunch of Raleigh St. Augustine that's been down about a week as we are recording this. So tell us a little bit about what we should be doing if you're starting new sod this time of year, what you would do, whether it's St. Augustine or any new sod, some of the things to consider.
Yeah, Al, you know, it's a popular time for people to work in their yards and establish sod. Even some people still might be seeding grasses, but it's getting a little late for that. But sodding certainly a quick way to fix areas or renovate an entire area. You know, when you put sod down this time of the year, the one thing you want to do is make sure that you put it down as soon as you get the sod delivered. Most of the time it's cut that day or the previous evening, so you're getting it in within about 12 hours of it being cut. Right. And you know, the big thing to do after you lay it, try to lay it as close as possible to prevent weeds from coming through. If you have a roller, a lightweight roller, that helps get the air pockets out. But the big thing is really to keep it watered well after you put it in.
And what does that mean? I hear a lot of people say, well, you just need to water the heck out of it. But you got a plant really doesn't have a lot of roots on it. So tell us a little bit specifically about how to handle that.
You know, a good way to think about it is if you have an irrigation system, if you're able to water it 3 times a day for the first week to 2, it really depends on the weather. You know, while we're taping this series, we've been very wet.
Right.
And so you might not even have to water at all right now, or very little with your irrigation putting it in. But a couple days of dry weather is all it's going to take to dry that sod out. So essentially, if it's dry, I would water in the morning, midday, and in the evening for, you know, 30 minutes to an hour to see. You really want to see how much water you're delivering, but basically you want to get that water through the sod down to where the roots are.
Okay. One thing, and I think you probably would agree, one thing that I learned in doing this as a contractor is that one of the important things about water is having it moist underneath the sod, making sure that you water before you lay it.
That's exactly right. That's a good point, is when you're, you know, after you do that final rake over and get everything level before you're getting ready to lay the sod, run that water, whatever you've got, for just a few minutes. Just get that top layer just a little bit moist. You don't want it soggy, but lay that sod down into a moist environment.
Also helps settle some of the soft spots in it too. So
yep.
Anyway, okay, so we're kind of figured out how to do the sod the right way. Let's go to some specifics on St. Augustine. This is Raleigh St. Augustine. Tell us what we should be doing on this. Looks like it needs mowing.
Well, you know, we were talking about this before. You know, a lot of people, we both see this, tend to mow St. Augustine too short in this area. They want to mow it more like centipede or zoysia grass. Mm-hmm. And St. Augustine really would like for you to mow it almost at the top end of your mowing height on a mower, 3 to sometimes 4 inches, especially in the shade, and it will do much better. Mm-hmm. So the fact this looks like it needs mowing, you know, again, trying to keep it at a higher mowing height will only make it look better in the future.
Okay. Well, a lot of people have mixed lawns in this part of the world, with St. Augustine and some of the shadier locations, and trying to mow it at different heights is difficult, but obviously we don't have that problem here. As far as managing St. Augustine, you know, we think about a couple of problems coming up, chinch bugs, gray leaf spots, some of those kind of things. Some people are experiencing some of that right now. Tell us a little bit about, well, start with the chinch bugs. What should we be looking for, and what should we do if we find them?
Well, St. Augustine, almost no matter where you have it in this area, is going to have 2 things probably affect it during the summer. One will be gray leaf spot, that will tend to affect you more in the shadier, moister areas. Mm-hmm. And the other that potentially will get you, but gets a lot of folks, are chinch bugs. And they're a very small insect, about 1/8 of an inch long, even when they're mature. they're going to affect you more in the full sun, the dry areas of your yard. Gray leaf spot tends to show up when the humidity shows up. In late May, early June, you'll see little lesions develop on your turf, and those lesions will go away the more you mow it. But the more you don't mow and let those lesions develop and you keep that area wet, maybe you over fertilize a little bit, the more you're going to promote that fungus. And it's very tough to get away with fungicides. I've tried it a lot myself in my own St. Augustine for many years, and fungicides just, the gray leaf spot won't respond very well like it will to regular mowing and just good management practices.
So really not worth putting the fungicide on gray leaf spot in most situations.
In most situations, yeah. Yeah.
Well, I know I've heard you tell the story about chinch bug damage and how it shows up where you, out in those full sun locations where you're mowing along and all of a sudden there's no grass to mow, and then it kind of progresses. So remind us about that and what you're looking for on chinch bug.
Right, chinch bugs, we've had a very wet June, and quite often the chinch bugs will kind of mask themselves when we're having a lot of rain, and then we'll hit a week of fairly dry weather and your grass will turn tan to brown in a pretty rapid fashion. And like you said, a precursor to that a lot of times is you're mowing along, and every week you're mowing about the same amount of leaves off, and then you go out there one week in those full sun areas where you should have good growth, and you mow and you don't cut anything at all.
Right.
And that's a good early sign that the chinch bugs are down there feeding and sucking on those stems and just really slowing the grass down.
If you suspect something like that, what's the best way to confirm it?
Two ways. One, you can bring us a sample. Take a sample roughly about the size of a shoebox with some soil with that, bring it in, we'll put it in a bucket or a small, we'll float the chinch bugs out basically. Try to see if we can get them to come out. If you want to do it yourself, you can look online at our Turf Files website. We've got some great pictures of chinch bugs, damage, and I think the best way to do it is dig a section out where you suspect it, put it in a 5-gallon bucket, and just get enough water over the top of that sample so that, give it about 5 minutes and they'll be crawling along the edges of the bucket if you have them.
I think a lot of people, if they've never done that before, one thing, as you mentioned, this is a tiny
They're
bug.
small.
Yeah, so a lot of people are expecting some large beetle to come drag it out, and some people don't give it enough time. I've noticed, because sometimes it'll take at least 5 minutes for them to really be able to show up. So,
Yep.
But it does. Every time I've ever tried that, if you had the problem, you could definitely find them that way.
And most folks with St. Augustine, after it's been in for a few years, ought to think about, if they have it in full sun, do an insecticide treatment or two sometime in June and maybe towards the end of July, early August. That will help prevent that buildup of chinch bugs over time, because once you get a real bad outbreak, most years after that, they're going to come back.
Yeah, I noticed some of the areas of Wilmington you and I looked at, 2-3 years ago, just devastation. Grass completely gone and just had to be replaced. Only choice in situations like that. So,
Yep.
So we got the gray leaf spot. We've got the chinch bugs that are common on St. Augustine. You mentioned something about the wet weather that we experienced, especially in June, creating some other issues with large patch. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, one of the most common diseases we see also in St. Augustine and centipede and zoysia is one called large patch that normally develops itself or develops in the fall.
Right.
And will hang around through the fall. It'll stay on that dormant tissue in the winter, and then in the spring comes back out. And this year, because it's been so cool and so wet, we've got large patch that normally would go away in April and May that's still hanging on the beginning of July.
Right.
I'm getting a lot of pictures from folks in the industry with that. I'm seeing them in my visits. So it could be this year that we have almost, maybe 1 or 2 months where the disease isn't prevalent, and then we're back to needing to treat again. So it's an unusual year because it's been so cool and so wet through the first part of the summer.
But the treatment on that, still the applications around Labor Day and another one 4 to 6 weeks after, still the basic recommendation.
That's the basic recommendation, but I've seen it in St. Augustine bad enough now that I've told people to treat, but the basic recommendation for most folks, would be to wait until the fall.
Okay.
It could be this year that we stay wet enough that it doesn't go away.
Can't predict the weather though.
That's
can
right.
we? Well, let's switch gears a little bit, Matt, and briefly talk about some of the other grasses. You know, we grow a lot of centipede here.
Yep.
Just in addition to the St. Augustine zoysias, Bermudas, all of that in the lawns. What should we be thinking about here in July for some of those?
You know, the big thing is just regular mowing, getting out there and keeping your grass cut on a regular basis, not removing more than 1/3 of the leaf blade, and fertilizing. We're in a good period right now up until about the middle of August where we can fertilize our warm season grasses and really make them grow and give them the food they need during the summer. So that's really the big thing, keeping your grass mowed and giving it fertility up until about the middle of next month.
Okay, so the mowing, the fertilization, irrigation, any advice on that?
Well, you know, irrigation right now, the grasses, if you're fertilizing, they need water. The nitrogen really promotes the need for water in grasses. So if you're fertilizing, you're going to need to water. The time we really have to watch that watering is on towards the end of August into September. That's when we need to turn that irrigation back and really try to dial back the amount of water going on. Right now, if it's dry, you're not hurting your yard putting water on it. You're going to hurt it when it stops growing in July or in September and August, or September and October,
Right.
when it's not growing and you're putting a lot of water on it.
But the thing to keep in mind too about that is irrigation is meant as a supplement to rainfall.
That's right.
So,
Yeah, and there's still not a need even during this time of the year, unless you're a beachfront homeowner with a lot of wind, to ever irrigate every day.
Right.
We can always figure out a way to put that water out at a longer duration and let that canopy dry out. The more you water every day, the more we're going to promote problems like the gray leaf spot and the other diseases that we see.
okay. Well, thanks, Matt. Great advice on taking care of the lawns here in the hot summer. Stick with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the show. You know, we got that lawn care thing with the St. Augustine grass and some of the other grasses taken care of. Wanted to show you some beautiful pictures. You know, July is the hottest month of the year for us. One of the plants that really loves the heat, just like those warm season grasses, are these crepe myrtles. This variety here in the tribute garden at the Arboretum is grown as a standard or a single stem, a variety called Choctaw, kind of a medium height, what we'd call a semi-dwarf. We have lots and lots of different crepe myrtles here on the property. You'll see some of the Philly series, the dwarfs, the Dazzle series, like this Berry Dazzle, on up to things like Fantasy and Miami and Sioux, all with different sizes and different flower colors. So consider that great plant for here. All you really need is decent soil with good drainage and full sun, and you can grow crepe myrtle very easily. Just don't put them in the shade. Speaking of great plants to add to the garden, I've got a couple of buddleias that you really ought to take a look at to add to your garden. You know, butterfly bush, or buddleia if you like the Latin, is a popular plant. It attracts butterflies, obviously the common name would imply that. But if you've ever grown buddleia, one of the problems with a lot of the varieties, the Black Knights and some of the old ones that we've used for many years, is that they are very aggressive and vigorous, and they tend to grow really tall, and then in a little bit of a windstorm, they'll just fall over or break. So there's been a lot of interest in recent times in butterfly bushes that are more compact. One of the ones that we've talked to you about in the past has an NC State connection. It's the Lo and Behold series that Dr. Dennis Werner, who's a professor at NC State, was the breeder on. Our experience here, although we love Dr. Werner, our experience with the Lo and Behold series here at the Arboretum hasn't been all that great. It's not a bad plant, but you don't really get the flowers like you'd expect from some of the typical butterfly bush. A series that has really impressed us in the last couple of years, and it's here in the butterfly wing border that we installed last year, is called the Buzz series. There are 6 different varieties in that. You can see some of the one called Velvet here, the purple one, there's an ivory colored one, several other shades of lilac and purple in that group. But this group of plants stays relatively compact. You can see the Velvet one is probably going to reach about 5 to 6 feet before the summer is over. Some of the others a little more compact. But this plant really puts on a lot of flower buds. They're full size pretty much. They're not short like a lot of the dwarf buddleias are. And good color, good growth habit, and a kicker on it too is that it even has fragrance. Now right now I can't smell them, but in the early morning you get a nice little whiff of that really nice fragrance, not quite so strong as something like gardenia, but a good fragrance nonetheless. So you're going to attract butterflies and moths if you're trying to do that to your garden. You're going to have lots and lots of color from late May all the way through the first hard freeze. So buddleias are great plants if you can find some that don't grow so large and create the problems. And this Buzz series looks like a winner for us here in southeastern North Carolina. If you want to add some of these gorgeous butterfly bushes to your garden, you don't have to try so hard to do that. They are relatively easy to find and relatively easy to grow. Plenty of sun so you get good flower bud production, decent soil, something you'd grow typically herbaceous perennials or shrubs will be fine for the butterfly bushes. They'll perform very well for you. Don't forget, in late winter, even for the dwarf ones, you're going to need to prune them hard or else you're going to have problems with them, even the dwarfs. Another group of plants we're playing with here are the echinaceas, or purple coneflowers. We showed you a few pictures of those in that perennial border last month, but a lot of varieties starting to pop here this time of year. All kinds of different flower forms, colors that you wouldn't really expect in echinacea. So come out, check out the perennial border, the butterfly border here, the herb garden, the new picnic area, all kinds of things to see here at the New Hanover County Arboretum. Stay with us. After the break, we'll join Chantel in the kitchen.
Sure is heating up outside, so that means I'm going to show you some nice refreshing treats to make. I'm going to show you a couple of different ways to use watermelon and cantaloupe and strawberries. Right now, cantaloupe and watermelon in particular are in season in southeastern North Carolina, and they've got lots of nutrients in them, and so I'm going to show you some tasty ways to use them that will be very refreshing. You can have them at parties, or you can give them to your friends, or just drink it, you know, if you're hot and you want something as an alternative to maybe a soda. Sodas typically have about 38 grams of sugar in there, and I'm going to show you some ways to make some drinks that will have 20 grams or less, so quite a bit less sugar, and you're also going to get the vitamin content from the fruits that are in there. So I'm going to just show you some easy ways to use some of the basic same ingredients in different ways, blended up or in a salad, and they're very easy to make and will be very refreshing for you. So I'm going to start out with one of the drinks, and it's got about 1.5 cups of watermelon, and this is to make 4 servings. So if you want to make more, just double that, but I'm just going to put in about 1.5 cups of watermelon. And I've already sliced everything in cubes, about 1-inch sizes. So 1 cup of watermelon, and then you can use bottled lime juice, but I like to use the fresh stuff. I think it tastes better. So I've got half a lime here, and you're going to squeeze that right into the blender. And if you want to get fancy, you can wipe the rim of your glass with it and dip it in sugar to just make it look pretty, and then it can give a little bit of a extra sweet flavor as you're drinking it. If you're making it for a party or something, you can do that. So just got that squeezed into here. And then I've got a tablespoon of sugar, which if you really are trying to cut down the sugar content in your diet, then you don't have to put all of this in. And then I've got a little bit of club soda to give it kind of that carbonation, and I've got half a cup here and a little bit extra that I'm going to pour in straight into the glass after it blends up. So I'm not going to pour all of it in yet. And then just a pinch of salt. All right, so once you get those ingredients in there, just get it blended up. You can see this nice pretty color you've got. And I've garnished it here with a little bit of watermelon. And a little bit extra of that club soda to give it the bubbly. And you can see in just a matter of a few minutes that you've got a nice refreshing drink. And if you want to make it extra refreshing, you can freeze your watermelon before you use it, or you can add some ice cubes in there, add a bunch of ice cubes, and you can make it more of a smoothie consistency, or you can just have it like a drink as it is. So the next thing I'm going to show you is how to make a salad that's got watermelon, cantaloupe, and strawberries as the base ingredients, and then there's a little dressing in there that's got lemon yogurt, honey, and a little bit of lemon juice. So this is my lemon yogurt I've got here. And you could probably switch this out for a different flavor if you'd like, if you would rather vanilla or something else, but the lemon is really going to make it have that really refreshing taste to it. And you can go for the Greek yogurt if you can find it in lemon. It'll have a lot more protein in it for you. So that's about a half a cup of yogurt, and this is going to give you about 3 servings. So if you want more than that, you can of course double or triple or whatever you need. And then I've got about, I'm going to put in about a half a tablespoon of honey. And then about half a teaspoon of lemon juice. So you don't need to squeeze out all of the juice out of a half a lemon. So I'm just going to squeeze it a little bit. It's about 1 squeeze worth. So then, once you've got those 3 ingredients in here, you just whisk that up to combine the honey and the yogurt. All right, I've got that all mixed up. And then it takes about a cup of watermelon. A cup of cantaloupe. And a cup of strawberries, and I'm just going to slice those as I put them into the bowl, just in half. And with salads like this, when you're using fruit, it doesn't have to be exact on your ingredients. You can just kind of eyeball it, what looks like the right amount, but it's about a cup that you're going to aim for. All right, so once you add your fruit in there, just stir it up, but don't be too rough because the watermelon can get crushed. So just kind of fold in the yogurt. And I think you'll find that that lemon flavor of the yogurt and the lemon juice will really kind of bring out some different flavors of these fruits. So again, just in a few minutes, then you can have a nice refreshing salad, and you can save this for snacks, or you can have it as a side dish, or have it for a party, whatever you want, but it'll be very refreshing for you and nutritious with those fruits in there. So next I'm going to show you how to make the other fruit drink that has watermelon and cantaloupe in it. So now I'm going to show you how to make the other drink. It's got watermelon, cantaloupe, mint leaves, orange juice, and a little bit of lemon and lime juice. So it makes about 2 servings. So again, if you're making it for a lot of people, you can double it or triple it, whatever you need to do. So I'm just going to start out with about 3/4 cup of watermelon. Then a cup of cantaloupe. And then I've got a cup of orange juice. I'm going to use the rest of my lemons because I need about an eighth of a cup. So I'm just going to squeeze out the rest of this half I've got. And that calls for the same quantity of lime juice as lemon juice, so about an 1/8 cup. And I'm just going to use a half of a lime. Then about a half a tablespoon of mint leaves, and mint leaves go really well with the lime and the lemon, and they just blend together so nice with their flavors. So I think you'll really enjoy that, especially for a refreshing treat. And then it's also got 1 tablespoon of honey. So just get that all in your blender, and then mix it up. And right before I pour it, I'm going to put in a little bit of lime zest. Then mix it up one last time. And it's ready to go. And if you want to make it thicker, you can add ice cubes, or you can add a little bit of yogurt to it. But the flavors in here are going to be very refreshing, especially with that mint. Again, just some refreshing treats. I hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for staying with us, and look forward to seeing you next month for another seasonal treat.